I took another deep breath to calm down. It was all becoming too much. I couldn't even tell how I felt anymore. Shock hit me again. I had braced for bad news, but this last bit just crushed me. Okay, I paused, trying hard to think through the mess in my head. I was far from okay. Feeling dizzy, I dragged myself back to the counter for support. My head hurt so much it was tough to think. I looked out the window above the sink, noticing the nice day outside. Okay, I said again. I fought the sick feeling and turned to see Gwen. She had sat down again, her knees pulled close and her arms around them. Her chin rested on her knees as she looked at me. God, she looked beautiful. I remembered all our good times. Drinking at bars, shopping together, cozy Sundays inside with books and cuddles, talking about movies we wanted to see. We had wild nights that left us tired the next day, and soft touches that felt just as good. I thought of holding her when she cried about her mean dad, staying up all night when she had nightmares. I remembered my wife holding my hands, listening about my tough time as a teen, how my first love hurt me. She promised she'd never do that. I remembered her saying she loved me yesterday, that she didn't mean any harm. 2 questions, I said quickly. 2 things to ask before anything else. I walked over to Gwen and took her hand softly. Her fingers shook. We both felt so mixed up, our lives falling apart. Gwen, you said you love me, that you've always loved me. Is that true? Yes. She didn't pause. Yes, Jack, I do. She spoke like she did on our wedding day 6 years ago with all the same love. I took a deep breath. This next question was the big one. If I said to you, Gwen, would you leave Joe for good, go far away with me and never see or talk to him again? Would you? Do you love me that much? Tears came back to her eyes, a look of shock on her face as she got what I was asking. Don't make me pick, Jack, she said softly. Don't make me choose. I swear I don't love Joe more than you. I love you both. I need you both. Her face turned red and blotchy as she cried. She held on to my hands tight, and I remembered all the times we were there for each other when things got really bad. Shh. I ran my hand through her black hair, trying to calm her. It's okay, Gwen. I won't make you choose. Hope showed in her face through the tears. But that hope went away as I let go of her hand and stepped back. I had to make the choice she couldn't. No, she moaned, shaking her head. No, Jack, don't do this. We can figure something out. I can't do this, Gwen. I can't be okay with this. You hid the truth twice from me. No, Jack, Twice? What do you mean? I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Joe. I'm sorry how you found out, but please, don't leave me over this. Yeah, twice, Gwen. I showed a thumb. First, you were with him behind my back, and second, I showed a finger. Second, you said you didn't love him more than me. My soon-to-be ex-wife choked on her sobs. I don't, Jack. I don't love him more, it's just... You do, Gwen. It was tearing me apart to break her down. She was the one who did wrong, her and Joe, but I felt awful as I hit her with the truth. I know you love Joe more for one big reason. You hid him from me. I had no idea, and I wouldn't have known if I hadn't come home early yesterday and caught you two. If it wasn't for that, we'd have kept on going, hidden from me. But he always knew, said he was my pal, and you didn't keep anything from him. You told Joe, Gwen, all along, but you didn't love me enough or respect me enough to be honest with me, too. It was true, and she couldn't say otherwise. Joe had known all along. He knew Gwen had fallen for me, that she had married me, that we were together. He knew I was the one she turned to in tough times, the one she slept with every night. Me? I was in the dark. Joe was mad, got in my face as I tried to leave the kitchen. You jerk, walking out on her while she cries? Again? Leaving the best thing you ever had? He hit his chest. I love her enough to share her. Can't you do the same? I was done. My answer was soft, just tired. Would you stay with her, Joe, if she lied to you from the start? If we swapped places, could you forgive her? Yes! He said it fast and firm, and that made me kind of smile. Then good for you, Joe. You're the better man. Hope that makes you feel better about that humiliation thing. More yelling, more crying, more begging. I tuned it out. I had nothing more to say. Gwen was crying hard, and Joe was still trying to make me see sense. Hearing Gwen so upset hurt, but I knew our marriage couldn't go on. I finally got past Joe and into the living room. He tried to come after me, still yelling mad at me about how wrong I was being to Gwen, and how if I really loved her, I'd see that. That's when I threw a table lamp at him. It missed him. I kind of wish it hadn't. The lamp hit the door frame behind him and broke. Gwen showed up at the kitchen door looking scared. I didn't look at her. I just stared hard at Joe until he slowly lifted his hands, showing he meant no harm, and moved back. In the bedroom, I packed all my stuff into 2 bags. My birth paper and social number were in a box we both used, and I'd have to get them later. All the other things? The small treasures and keepsakes? I didn't want them. They'd just remind me of Gwen. Duncan had told me not to let her push me out of the house, and I had said I'd move to the spare room. That wasn't going to work. I knew at some point she and Joe would end up together again, and I wasn't going to stick around for that. When I got out of the bedroom, they were both gone. Her car was gone too. I wondered where Joe had been putting his old car whenever he came by, then realized he must have been parking on some street close by to not get caught. Not that it mattered now. Where had they gone? Who knows? Who cares? Not me. I just felt a strong need to get out. That's when I noticed they took the bag of bagels. That annoyed me a bit. With all that was going on, I hadn't had the chance to eat one. There was one last thing I had to do before I left. I put my bags down, took out my wallet, and looked for a card. Carefully, I dialed the number on my phone and waited for an answer. When someone picked up, I felt like I was on the edge of a huge drop about to fall. "Yes," I said to the kind voice. "My name is Jack Brandt. Ted White gave me your number. He said you helped him before. Can I meet Mr. Lynn to talk?" The lady at the desk asked more, and I let out a big sigh before saying, "Yes, I want to divorce my wife. Divorce is not like in movies or books. It's long, hard, and takes a lot of money. Maybe not for some rich guy, but for most of us it does. There are so many fees, for the court, lawyers, and even talking things out. Yes, I talked about paying to talk. My lawyer was good, but the judge wanted us to believe in marriage again. So Gwen and I had to go to talk sessions, not just 1, but 10, before we could end things. We couldn't do more than 4. I couldn't forget what she did, and Gwen didn't want to leave Joe. When Joe joined our last talk, the person helping us gave up. They told the lawyers and the judge. The judge wasn't happy, but said we still had to pay for all 10 sessions. I was too tired to fight that. Gwen didn't care. We didn't talk or see each other after that. All contact stopped. I got a court order to keep Gwen and Joe away from my sister's place. It was harsh, but I needed to move on. In the end, we had to sell a lot of things and our house. The sale money first went to the bank for our house loan. What was left went to pay the lawyers. There wasn't much money left for us in the end. Lucky me, huh? When the judge heard I wanted out, he almost made me pay. But my soon-to-be ex, Gwen, made a bit more dough than me at her web job. So the tables could have turned. She might have had to pay me. That's what my lawyer said anyway. I didn't chase that. Here's a thing no one says about breaking up. It's not just you and them or even the kids. It shakes up everyone around. Gwen's mom and brother, not big fans of mine, not bothered, I guess. Her family didn't ring me, yelling or crying. Wonder what Gwen told them. But they had to deal with her stuff. Our pals, though. Man, it was a mess. Some said I should have stuck it out. Others said I dodged a bullet. A few just ghosted us, not wanting the drama. Poof, gone. Friends we had online or face-to-face felt the quake of our split. Didn't see that coming. It was rough. I lost more mates than I thought I would. And my mood plummeted. But hey, my sister and her bunch, solid gold. Some days I was just going through the motions, but they kept me going, and I tried to be there, mostly spoiling my nieces rotten. It gave me a reason to smile and gave Annabelle and Duncan a break. Funny enough, that mess of a divorce brought my sister and her hubby closer. So there's that. When disaster hit close to them, it pushed them closer. They were good together before. Now they seemed just right. I wanted to be jealous, but I just couldn't. Instead, I found joy in little things, like giving their kids their first taste of ice cream and chocolate. Just a little bit, of course. My wife didn't want the divorce at first. She and her lawyer tried to slow things down. But in the end, she lost hope and let it happen without a fight. 7 months after finding out the worst, we signed the papers. Gwen was pale and quiet, hardly saying a thing. Joe was there too, giving me angry looks for some reason. After leaving the judge's office with my lawyer, I didn't look back. I knew that seeing Gwen's eyes would break me. How can you still love someone so much when they hurt you deeply? I met Mr. Lin at his office again to finish up some last paperwork. I thanked him for his help. He gave me a bag of resources and support groups for people getting divorced, and we said goodbye. I kept some of Mr. Lin's business cards in my wallet, just like the trucker who helped me before. And that was that. I was free. I could leave my life with Gwen behind and start fresh. But why did I go back to our house? It was empty. The real estate people had cleared it out to sell. No buyers yet, but some were interested. I hoped it would sell quickly. I had bills to pay. I still had the keys, so I went inside for one last look at the place I had lived for over 6 years. It was so quiet. Without the furniture and rugs, any small noise should have bounced around, but it felt as still as a tomb. I walked through the garage once more, step by step into the living room. The wood on the floor shone like it was new, and the walls were bright with fresh paint. But even so, the place looked more empty than when we first came. The folks who sell houses had taken away every bit that showed we lived there. I knew you'd come back here. Just one more time. I turned and there was Gwen, in the door to the kitchen. I was so lost in my head that I didn't hear her car or her coming in. She wore the same black dress and tall shoes as at the court. No shock. I still had on my suit and tie. Yeah, well, I waved at the empty room. Thought I'd take one last look, to be sure we left nothing. I glanced past her. Joe didn't come? My wife, my now ex-wife, shook her head. He's at our place making dinner. Said I needed some time alone. I just nodded, though I really didn't get what she was thinking. Whatever it was, she and Joe would have to sort it. Not my worry now. You'd think I'd feel better knowing that. I thought you'd be out, happy. Gwen moved to the glass doors that led out back. This was what you wanted, right? I stood tall, let out a heavy breath. No, Gwen, it's not. It really isn't. It's what had to happen. Gwen looked at the yard. When we got the house, we thought it would be great for kids to run around. Those kids would never come now. I'm sorry, Jack, she said softly. This isn't how it was meant to go. Sorry I found out. Sorry it broke our marriage and all the love and trust I had. That I believe, Gwen. I let out a deep sigh. But you haven't made me feel you're sorry for cheating or for whatever you had with Joe all these years. She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the yard outside where our kids would never play. I should go, I said, moving towards the door. If she wanted to be alone, so be it. Time to start over, I thought. Not sure how, but what else is there? I was almost back to the kitchen when she called out, Jack? Did it have to end this way? Do you really hate me now? I stopped, standing in the doorway, not looking at her, trying to think what to say. Yes. My voice was steady. And no. Turning to face her, I just shrugged. Yes, it ends here, Gwen. Not what you wanted, not what I wanted. But we can't both get what we want. And no, I don't hate you. I feel let down, Gwen, like you kicked me when I was down, in both my back and my heart. It hurts to see you and think of what we could have been, then remember what you did. It hurts to see you now and know I'll likely not see you again. And honestly, I don't know how I'll get through tomorrow or the days after that. But I don't hate you. I gave her a sad, tired smile. I still love you. Guess 'cause I'm a fool. The smile went away. But if we stayed together, Gwen, if you and Joe got me to just go along, then yes, I would have ended up hating you. I'd resent both you and Joe and hate myself even more than now, making all three of us even sadder. This way, we're free. You're free. You have Joe. You'll manage. Gwen walked over, sadness on her face as she put her hands on my chest. I was dumb to let her so close. Even more to close my eyes and feel the warmth of her hands through my shirt and on my skin. But who's there for you, Jack? She was crying. Gwen was crying and put her head on my shoulder. My arms went around her small body. It hurt, but it felt so good to hold her again. I hadn't touched her since the day I found out the bad thing, and it felt so great to have her close. Then I started crying too, because I saw she was crying for me. You'll be alone again, like when I met you, she cried with a frown. She hit my shoulder soft with her fist. You hate being alone. Maybe I'll meet someone, I said, weak. I'm 32. I'm still young. Deep down, I didn't want anyone else. I wanted Gwen, who I had loved and still loved. I held her and didn't want to let go. One hand was on her head as I kissed her there, the other hand on her waist. We stood and cried together for what we had and what could not be now. That's when I did the most foolish thing. I went to kiss the top of her head again. But she lifted her head to talk, and our lips met. It was quick and awkward, but the kiss hit us hard. Gwen and I looked at each other in shock for a few beats while the taste of each other stayed on our lips. We fell into a wild kiss. Our kisses were strong and rough, and we ripped our clothes off to feel the warmth of our skin once more. No words, just raw sounds as we came together over and over. When I was tired, I used my fingers and mouth to keep her going until I could again. Gwen moved to show what she wanted, and I gave her just that. We were wild with each other, scratching, biting, and yelling on the floor of our now empty home. It felt like saying goodbye in the most intense way, not with soft love, but with a rush of feelings. It was like we packed all the close moments we could have had into just that one short time. After we just held each pass, quiet, not ready to let go. For me, the next step looked scary and big. I still had so much love for her. But then, things end. In silence, we got up, dressed, and with one last hug and kiss, we left each other's lives. So this is where things should pick up for me, right? Now is when I should get my act together, hit the gym, get fit, start my own thing, make good money doing what I love, and find someone new who gets me. She might have been around all along, or maybe I'll meet her soon. And all will be well. And Gwen? Is this where she gets what she deserves for being unfaithful? Where her life goes downhill and she's stuck knowing she broke what we had, right? Or what if we fix things? Joe leaves her, she comes back to me, sorry and trying to win me back, and we end up happy with kids. Or maybe she marries Joe and I end up with her anyway. What a story that would be. Yeah, no, that's not what happened. Life isn't a fairy tale. After that last day, I never saw Gwen again. I never heard from her or Joe. There were times I thought about finding her, but I didn't. I needed to move on, I told myself. Looking back wouldn't help. I heard bits about them sometimes. It was bound to happen. They got married, and I spent that night drinking alone. But after a few years, I lost track of them. I didn't know if they were even still around. As for me, no, I didn't get better. This sad story didn't make me look at my life and grow. Instead, I fell apart. I really fell. No, my boss wasn't understanding. Even with HR feeling sorry for me, I was fired for not doing my job well 4 months later. No, there wasn't a line of women waiting for me. I had some friends who felt bad for me. But that's all they were. Friends. Most were married, so nothing there. And the single ones saw me as not worth the trouble. The rest doesn't matter much. Just know that for the next 14 years, I moved a lot and changed jobs a lot. I stopped playing games, stopped meeting people. I got off social media, used a simple phone, and hardly ever went out. I didn't date. I couldn't trust anyone. For 14 years, all I did was work and stay home. At home, I ate a bit, read a bit, watched some TV, and slept. In the middle of the night, I'd walk far with no plan. I was mad and bitter. Life had hurt me, and I wanted to pay it back, in small, mean ways. Annabelle didn't always know where I was. I pulled away from her, too. Seeing my sister, her happy husband, and their pretty kids was too hard. Every Christmas, I sent them as big a check as I could to help with their kids. I didn't even know how many they had after a while. That was about all I did. Can you believe that? 10+ years of just being there? No family, no friends. I wasn't really living, just getting by. I got so thin, my ribs showed. My clothes were old and from cheap stores. I wore them till they fell apart. I hated life, living, and me. I thought the world gave me nothing, so I owed it nothing. I thought about ending it all, a lot. Maybe my ex-wife didn't mean to hurt me so bad, but the shame stayed for years. I felt so low, less of a man, less of a person. It stuck with me long after I tried to forget her. Honestly, I think the only reason I didn't do it was that it felt like too much work. I had no energy left. I felt dead inside. My body just hadn't caught up yet. Then one day, without any warning, I was really glad because I died. I was in Maine without a job again, and I ran out of milk. I had to have milk. Every day, one of my meals was just cereal or oatmeal, simple foods that needed no cooking. Usually no sugar, maybe some fruit if I felt fancy. But I always had milk. So, on a very cold February night, I dressed warm and walked to the corner store. At 3 in the morning, no one else was on the street. The wind blew hard, a sign a big snow was coming. The lights from above made the air look strange and quiet. It felt like I was the only one left. I kind of liked it. It was like being a ghost in a dead city. It matched how I felt. I thought the small store might be closed because of the storm. I was ready to walk back home, sure the world would let me down over a simple jug of milk. But the store was open. The signs flashed for beer, lotto tickets, and an ATM. Maybe the workers couldn't leave because of the snow. I just wanted milk. Their families and pals would be there after the storm. More than I could say for me. I just wanted my milk and to get back home, so I walked in. Right away, it felt like I got hit 3 times, in my chest, my stomach, and my leg. I fell, crashing into a rack of magazines. At first, no pain, but then it hit. My chest hurt so bad I could barely breathe. My leg burned like it was on fire. I couldn't breathe right. It hurt to even try. My mouth tasted like metal. I tried to figure out what was wrong. Then I remembered the sound of guns. Funny, I didn't think of it until I was on the floor. I tried to move, touching where it hurt most. My hand was sticky, hot, and red. Lying on the floor, I let out a small smile. I dropped my blood-covered hand and shut my eyes, feeling happy. It was all done. Finally done. I almost cried, feeling so relieved. In my wallet, there was a card that said, "Do not resuscitate," which meant I probably wouldn't make it. And that was fine. People were screaming, yelling, and I heard more loud noises. A robbery was happening, I slowly figured out. I just walked into a shop and got shot for no good reason. It was a dumb way to get hurt, a dumb way to go. But it was all right. It worked for me. I felt sad for my sister, but Annabelle was strong. She didn't really need her big brother, who was a mess, especially not when she had Duncan and the kids. No one else would miss me much. I had no friends. I didn't think about Gwen or how this might hit her. She'd been out of my life so long, I didn't even think of her. Pain started to take over my belly and chest. It got worse, a deep, sharp hurting. I should have been freaking out. I should have been scared of dying. But I felt nothing like that. I'd been so down for such a long time, it changed me. I was fading fast. My eyes were heavy, which was good because everything was too bright. I felt like I was drifting off, falling asleep. Everything turned into dim feelings and sounds far away. People talked to me, asked me things. I tried to tell them to leave me alone, but they didn't listen. I was moved around, felt cold, saw flashes, heard beeps like an alarm, more lights, and more people talking, touching and moving me. "Just do it," I think I said to someone. I wanted them to stop bothering me and just let me go quietly. "He's awake!" someone yelled, then near me. "Sir, can you say your name? Do you know where you are?" The questions bugged me. I tried weakly to push away the person and drift off again. Loud voices, talk of blood pressure. "We're losing him!" "It's okay," I said weakly. I had almost left the pain behind. "It's okay. Lost me long ago." I don't think they heard me. I thought, would anyone care to mark my grave? My last wish was for a simple stone, small, in a spot where folks would always trip on it. Then, nothing. "But she always talks like that," someone said, sounding fed up. "That's Sarah for you. I've told you about her before." I wanted to nod. Why I wanted to agree or who Sarah was, I had no idea. Yet it felt right, like jumping into a chat midway and missing the start. "Anyhow," the voice went on, "Eddie, the bouncer, he has to kick this guy out even though he kinda likes him. Not that Eddie would say he likes him, 'cause Eddie's too shy, which is cute. But he's got his job, right? And the guy's date is still sick in the bathroom." That didn't click for me. I thought Eddie liked Sarah, so this was all new. If only I knew who Eddie or Sarah were. I opened my eyes. A new, clean, dropped ceiling, not like the store. Other sounds hit my ears now. Folks in the hall, beeps, someone breathing hard, and a lady's voice over a speaker. It was a place I should have known, but the word escaped me. Someone was talking near me, close by. I felt the warm touch of a hand in mine. I wanted to look and say something, but my neck just wouldn't move. I couldn't do much apart from a low sound because my throat felt stuck. I tried hard to look around by moving my eyes to the left. It was so hard. Who knew looking around could take so much effort? I got very confused when I saw I was in a hospital room and a clown was holding my hand. This clown was pretty. She wasn't like the typical ones with a fake nose and crazy hair. Under her white face makeup, she looked young, maybe in her late 20s or early 30s. She had fun, swirly colors on her cheeks. Her nose had a bright red dot that matched her lips, and she had purple curly hair that looked soft and real, not like a wig. She wore a white coat, but her dress was full of colors like it had met lots of crayons. I couldn't see her feet, but I bet she had big red shoes on. She kept talking while I watched her. I couldn't keep up with what she was saying because I was too busy looking at her. I started to feel sleepy again. My eyes wanted to close, and I felt numb all over. But I didn't want to sleep. It seemed like I had been asleep for so long. I wished to stay awake, to keep seeing her, hear her, and hold her gloved hand a bit longer. I had no idea why a clown was here in the hospital. I couldn't remember why I was here either, but I was happy she was with me, whoever she was. I tried to talk again, but only a small sound could come out. My mouth and throat felt blocked by something hard. I tried again, louder this time, hoping she'd see me. My fingers only sort of moved. It might have felt like a soft wind touch to her. I wasn't sure if she heard me or felt the slight push, but she jumped back, shocked. Her lips made a small O as she stood up fast and bent down to me. Her eyes, bright as new leaves, grew big with surprise. She looked at me, happier than anyone I've seen in a long while. "You're awake! Oh my God, you're awake! How long have you—" She stopped and jumped into action. "Wait, I'll get help! Can you keep awake? Try hard, okay?" She grabbed a white thing next to the bed and pressed it quick. A bell sound came from the hall. She was still holding my hand, now giving it a soft squeeze. "It's all right," she said, smiling in a way that made me feel calm. "Just stay with us." I'd have nodded if I could. I blinked slowly instead, trying to squeeze back. Her smile grew. Then, lots of folks in white coats and nurse clothes came in, moving the clown girl aside, checking the big machines. A man in blue looked down at me, worried. "Sir, can you hear me? Blink twice if yes." It felt super hard, but I did it slow. It made him smile. "Good. You might be mixed up. That's okay." His words would have helped more if I knew why it was okay. "I'm Dr. Gorovsky. You're in the hospital. You've been here a while. Your body is weak, so moving is hard. There's a tube in you to help you breathe, so don't try to talk. You can't yet." The old doc shook his head like he saw something amazing. "You're really lucky, trust me. I was full of tubes. How I missed seeing them before, I don't know, but now I felt stuff in my nose, mouth, and throat. My right arm felt heavy with tubes from my elbow going back somewhere I couldn't see. I couldn't move or talk, and my whole body felt weird. Lucky? How? Hold on. I bet you've got tons of questions. We'll get to them. Just hang tight. It'll take some time." Even with my brain all foggy, I wanted to ask if he really thought I could go anywhere. I blinked twice to show I got it, and he nodded back, sharp. Being awake felt strange. I was there, but not quite. The medical folks kept asking me stuff and checking on me, but I couldn't keep any of it in my head. Every now and then I'd look at the door, hoping to see that clown girl again. She never came back. But thinking about her kept me busy. And yeah, thinking about her was a nice break. Stuck in bed, I wondered who she was and why she was there with me. Kids in the hospital get clown visits, and even superheroes sometimes. I fancied if Spider-Man or Wonder Woman would show up. Given my luck, it'd probably be Deadpool. But hey, I'm no kid. Doctors and nurses came in and out, just like how messed up my sense of time was. I'd sleep, wake up, and sleep again. As I started feeling a bit better, I got more and more restless. Memories began to creep back. I remembered going out to grab milk and falling, but getting shot. That part I just couldn't remember. I didn't see others' faces clear in the shop, but I sure remember lying down and seeing Hershey bars on a deal, one free if you buy one. Reese's were under the Kit Kats. Some days after I woke up, the clown girl came back. Felt like days anyway. I was sitting up a bit more by then, and I felt a bit more here. The tube for breathing was gone. Glad I missed that going in. Couldn't talk yet, but I could move some. "Hey." She peeked in, checking the hall, then stepped in. Same getup as before, but wow, those were not normal clown shoes. They were huge red heels like walking on sticks. That made me see she was shorter than I thought. But when you're down, everyone's tall. She sat close and took my hand again. I was a bit stronger, could hold her hand just a bit and smile some. Turning my neck to see her was hard, but I did it. "I really shouldn't be here," she said, "but I had to see how you're doing." She rolled her big green eyes. I've always liked big eyes. "They were okay with it when you were out. Called it therapy. Now you're up, they say I'm in the way. Nurses, right? She moved some hair from my face. It felt close, nice. She talked for us both, which was fine. It was good to just listen. Her voice was high, sweet, and full of life. So, guess you might not recall, but I'm Cotton, she said, biting her lip. Her makeup stayed perfect. Ring a bell? Gosh, I've been yapping at you for days on end. No clue if you caught any of it. I figured if I kept on talking, you might catch a bit. Cotton laughed and shook her head like a goof. Silly, right? I'm more of a show clown than a help clown, but I had to give it a shot. I tried to swallow. My throat hurt as I did. I couldn't speak or write, but I managed to move my hand so my finger touched her palm. I had one question. With all my strength, I drew a letter in her glove. The clown girl seemed shocked for a sec, seeing how hard that was for me. She's sharp, got what I was asking right away. She gave me a somewhat sad smile and held my hand again. Because there was no one else here for you. That's my first meeting with Cotton. Well, actually, Cindy is her name. Cotton was both her last and clown name. She thought about going by Cottontail the Clown for the fun sound, but she wasn't a fan of rabbits. She found out about me on a visit to the kids' part of the hospital and stopped by out of curiosity. Learning I had no visitors made her stay with me. It broke my heart a bit that nobody came for me, not even my sister, but it made me like Cindy even more. She was all heart. It turns out there was a reason my sister hadn't shown up. No one knew who I was. The bad guys had taken my wallet after they jumped me. I got to the hospital with no ID and no DNR card. That's why they kept me alive. No one knew who I was. At most, they guessed I was from around here. So they just called me John Doe. I couldn't talk at first, so I stayed a mystery. A week later, I could finally tell them my name. When they asked about family, I said no. I had left my sister behind. I didn't want to pull her into my messed up life, but deep down, I felt different. I wasn't the guy who pushed the world away, hating it all. It was more like a weird dream. But if I wasn't that guy anymore, then who was I? Cindy and Dr. Gorowski told me more about my injuries. I was shot 3 times, once in my left leg, my belly, and near my heart into my right lung. My knee was now fake, and Cindy joked it would last me 80 years. I should hope to get some money back on it. The second bullet messed up my stomach and hurt my liver, too. The third one hit near my heart, hurt my lung, and did something to my brachial tube. Because I hit my head hard, I also cracked my skull. They said my brain was all right, but it made surgery harder. I was also not eating right. That made the doctor kind of upset. Maybe he thought my mind was not okay. In all, I had 93 hours of surgery and was out cold for 6 weeks. I died twice, once at the ER and once during surgery. I had to stay even longer for lots of physical therapy. I had nowhere to go after all this. I had no insurance and no way to pay for the big surgeries, talking help, and meds I needed. Thieves took all my money and stuff from my home, leaving me with nothing. Even if the cops found them, which a detective said might not happen, my stuff was probably gone for good. When I told Cindy, using a touchpad, she just smiled and said, "You can't fix it now. Just focus on getting better." She kept telling me her tales from other jobs to pass time. It wasn't the stories themselves that grabbed me, but how she told them. The nurses tried to keep her out, but I stood firm. I told them she was the only one sticking by me, so I wanted her there. They complained she should be with the kids, but she was a volunteer and visited me only before and after seeing the children, so it was fine. Cindy was a big help. She knew lots about hospitals and found me help through social workers. We got really close as she was there for every therapy session and spent most of her free time with me. She always wore her clown costume, and I started to wonder what she looked like without it. When my voice came back, rough and deep, I told her everything about my life. We had deep talks at night. She got me to share things I'd never told anyone else, and I didn't hold back. I even told her about that time I got back with Gwen once more after we split up. It was a dumb move I couldn't quite shake off, but didn't really regret either. Talking about Gwen and Joe felt odd, like I wasn't mad anymore. Maybe time made the hurt less sharp. Or maybe dying and coming back as someone else did the trick. I could chat about it with Cindy like it was all about some other guy. A close pal, maybe. The pain wasn't gone, but it felt like I was looking at it from far away. Cindy didn't hide her past from me either. She stopped going to school young, got mixed up in some rough stuff, ran away from home, and lost a baby at 18 without knowing who the dad was. Then she turned her life around, got her GED, and worked hard on her own. Those were her words, not mine. One of her first gigs was entertaining kids. That's how she started clowning. She also worked as a waitress and bartender. And yep, she was a stripper and burlesque dancer, and a cam girl. She made good money from it, easy to see why with her looks, but still liked to clown for free for charities. "You're okay with me stripping or being on the net?" she once asked. Some guys get weird about it. "Do you do it dressed as a clown?" She laughed at that, and I smiled too. Smiling was getting easier, maybe because I was doing it more. "No, I could, but it wouldn't feel right. I've got plenty of other outfits." Cindy tilted her head, her purple curls moving. "But you're really okay with it?" "Yeah, I was being real." "If you like it, go for it. Life's too short, I've learned." "I do like it. But lots of guys don't get it. Or they jump to all sorts of dumb ideas, let me tell you. Keith, my old boyfriend, he kept trying to get me to hang out with my coworkers for a threesome." Cindy thought over what I said with a careful mind. "Would you be okay dating a stripper or a cam girl? Someone who strips for other guys, who dances close to them, that wouldn't bug you?" I paused, not answering right off. I took my time to think it through before speaking. "I'd be fine with it, as long as she's open about it." I bit my lip, thinking some more. I gotta say, watching her dance close to others would be tough. But if I trusted her, and she was straight with me, if it was just dancing and nothing more, yeah. Where did my trust issues go? Maybe I've changed. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious," she replied lightly, "wondering why I'm single right now." We didn't talk about it anymore, and I let it go. Looking back, I was clueless. I wondered if she'd get in trouble for hanging out with a patient so much. There are rules about doctors and such not getting too close to people they look after, right? Cindy just brushed it off. "I'm not a real therapist, more of a professional clown." Then, it was time for me to leave the hospital. I'd been there for months. I still needed lots of help, but they couldn't keep me forever. I had no clue where I'd live. My landlord kicked me out, and it was too late to fight. My car was towed, and I had no cash to get it back. I worried all week, but Cindy told me not to fret, she'd handle it. When I mentioned the upcoming bill, she just smiled and kept quiet. When the big day came, it hit me like a bolt from the blue, just like when I met Gwen and Joe. It was my first time seeing Cindy out of her clown clothes and makeup. Her hair was still bright purple, and her smile looked even nicer without the face paint. She gave a big grin as they rolled me out. She spun around, showing off her legs, then took a deep bow, laughing. Her clothes were a lot tighter than her clown outfit, a dress that showed off her shape well, and I could see why she did well as a dancer. Apart from her strong legs and her full chest, it was her eyes that caught me. They shone with fun and a bit of trouble. Later, I learned her eyes were really that bright green. Her hair might be fake, but those eyes were real. Seeing her eyes then, I knew I was in love. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. "So, where are we going?" I asked, as she helped me into her car. "Some sort of home for help?" "No way, not at all. You'll like it, I promise," Cindy said with a quick glance and a smirk. "What, don't you trust me?" I twisted my mouth, feeling kinda good. My body hurt and I was tired, but I felt better than in a long while. Maybe that last hit to my head when I fell did some good? There was still a bit of darkness in me, but it was now hidden by the light of a new day. "I trust you. It's tough, but I do." I let out a big breath. "At least I don't have to fuss about my bags getting lost," I joked. We stopped in front of an old house from the early 1900s. "The folks upstairs are fine," Cindy said as she helped me up the front steps. I was still getting the hang of using a cane. Judy works at a local history place, and her man James fixes things in a small shop. Their kids pop in sometimes. They throw great BBQs. She led me to the door on the right, juggling keys. "You gotta watch out for your roommate." "Roommate?" "Yep," she said, sounding annoyed. We went inside. The living room was cozy, full of different chairs and sofas. It looked clean in a way that showed someone kept it nice all the time. There was a soft smell of incense. She can be annoying, and she doesn't think before she acts. Once she wants something, off she goes. Doesn't think twice. Really? I was a bit slow to get it. You'd be shocked by what she does. Like, she meets a guy, knows him for just a bit, and then brings him home out of nowhere. Crazy, right? I caught on then. "Hang on, you mean—" She hugged me from behind, resting her head on me. I could feel her close. "Did you mean it, when you said my doings don't bug you?" Yeah, if you're into it. Then she moved in front of me, her face all lit up. Bang, she whispered, standing on her toes. Zoom. Turns out, kisses from her, all dressed up and funny, are the best. 5 years went by, and things got good. Cindy was so different from my ex-wife. Gwen was quiet, kinda stayed in her sad, dark style. Cindy, though, full of life and laughter. She showed her style in black clothes that hugged her small frame. Looking back, she was the type to let life pass her by. Cindy was a whole different story. Still not tall, with big eyes like Gwen's, but while Gwen was thin and small, Cindy was all about curves and softness. Her clothes were all colors and styles, often mismatching just for fun. Gwen let life roll over her. Cindy? Cindy grabbed life with both hands and laughed. Now and then she grabbed me the same way and laughed, but always in fun, never mean. Still, life wasn't perfect. Don't be tricked. Cindy and I had our ups and downs, too. My dark moods didn't just disappear. Getting shot and hitting my head sort of shook things up, though. It was like it hit the reset button on my brain. I didn't really get haunted by it. Okay, maybe a few bad dreams here and there or getting jittery at the sound of certain doorbells, but I could handle it. Cindy was a wild one, always acting on impulse. It could drive me crazy one moment and make me fall deeply for her all over again the next. And there was still a huge pile of medical bills hanging over me. Thanks to her knowing certain people, a lot of it just vanished. The local government and some charities helped out, and then it was just about sending small payments when we could. It might never fully go away. We're talking about hundreds of thousands. I might end up leaving this world still owing money. Cindy wouldn't let me worry about it, though. The sky's always up there, she said, and there's always the chance something could fall out of it and hit you when you're not looking or ready. But it hasn't, and it's the same with this debt. It's always going to be there for folks like us. We can't let it keep us from living. Cindy always had cool sayings to keep me going. She made sure we stayed close. We never slept mad at each other. Sometimes we talked all night, but we always ended up in bed together. If one of us said, "I hate you," well, we'd make up right there. That was a rule at our place. And one night each week was just for us, no matter what. No friends or family. And boy, did she have a lot of friends. So many. Friends who had seen tough days, just like us. My new friends were not living the fancy dream. None owned their place, few had cars, and everyone had issues. These friends quickly became my friends too, especially when they learned I played tabletop RPGs. I was a bit out of date with D&D, but soon I was back in the game. Battling orcs with folks from the club at 4 a.m. was wild. Thanks to these pals, I found jobs. Not as much money as Cindy made, but it helped with the bills. I worked part-time at a neighbor's repair shop, at a bookshop, and filled in at some clubs. People knew they could count on me. The fact Cindy was a cam girl didn't bug me. Watching from the side was fun, too. I felt a bit proud, knowing she was mine in a way they couldn't have her. Her dancing at the club was tough to watch, but I tried not to think about it. She did give lap dances, but that was it. It was a fancy place where bad stuff didn't happen, and the boss was clear. If bad stuff did happen, they'd be kicked out. My love was great at dancing. Maybe not the best in the room, but she knew how to move. What was really cool was how she got extra drinks and tips from the guests, making them think they had a chance with her. We'd laugh all the way home while she counted her cash. Then we'd love each other a lot. I mean, things were better for me. I didn't say we were perfect. I wasn't the same young guy who got his heart crushed. I did start seeing a therapist. Cindy often came with me. It was a group thing at a local college because I couldn't pay for a private doctor. And I also went to some local support groups. It really helped me deal with my problems and feeling low. I had a few small eye-openers, but the big one was about my divorce and what came after. The truth was, I made myself sad and angry because I felt guilty. Deep down, I hated that I hurt the woman I loved, even though she cheated. I didn't think I deserved love or friends, so I cut myself off from the world thinking I didn't deserve happiness. The mind can be terrible sometimes. Getting back in touch with my sister was another part of getting better. I almost couldn't do it. Cindy had to call her for me. After a nervous, "Hey, it's Jack," Annabelle yelled at me a lot. I sat there taking her anger until Cindy got tired of it and took the phone. "Hey, Annabelle, this is Cindy." "Who?" "Oh, your brother's girl. Yeah, he's been with me a lot lately." "Wow, your bros thing is wild." I almost couldn't breathe. "Okay, short story long. Your brother got shot and died a few times. No joke. I get he's been a pain, but yelling at him on the phone isn't cool. Cindy gave me a win look. What you need to do is yell at him face to face. Then we both can tell him he's been super selfish. So when are you coming over? The meeting was full of tears. After years of being down, I started to get better. Dying, lots of talking, lots of hard work, 5 years, and a young, fun lady who wore noisy shoes helped me. At 52, I was finally having a good time. Maybe I wasn't rich and maybe I'd leave with debts, but after my divorce, I was calm for once. Life had one more curveball for me. It was May, and I was chilling on our small porch. It was our chill day. Cindy and I took the day to just relax. The air was cool, the grass bright green, and the sky clear blue. It felt great to just sit, sip tea, and not do much. I had brought a new game book for next week, but hadn't opened it yet. I just wanted to enjoy the outside. About a half hour in, Cindy came out. She had a late night and just woke up. I smiled at her. "Hey, love, sleep okay?" She hummed and sat close, taking my hand. She was quiet, which was normal for her when she just woke up. We just sat there, hand in hand, listening to birds and far-off cars. I thought it was going to be a good day. "Jack," she finally said, not looking at me, "did you talk to Annabelle last night?" "Yeah, just about how the kids are and stuff." "Why?" Cindy nodded, her curls moving. "Did she say anything else?" I blew out a breath, trying to remember. It's hard for me sometimes, but I'm okay at remembering stuff about my sister and her kids. "No, not much. We didn't talk long." Then it hit me. "Oh, right! She did say she got her DNA test results back. She's been all into finding out about our family history. I don't get what she expects to find." "I think it's for the kids," Cindy said softly. "She and Duncan want them to know where they come from." I laughed. "They're grown up. Well, all but James. But he's big enough to know he didn't come from a cabbage." Knowing about family history can be good for kids, I think. Cindy smiled a little. "Nothing else?" I'm not the quickest, but I noticed something was off in her voice. Cindy is usually straight with me. "Nope," I said long, hoping she'd say more. Maybe my sister was a bit off last time we talked. "Should she have?" Cindy clicked her tongue, looking a bit annoyed. "Maybe? She wanted me to talk to you about it, but I was hoping she'd tell you something." Cindy bit her lip, then let out a breath. "Okay, so you know how she's into finding out about our past, right? Like trying to get in touch with family we lost contact with?" I didn't see where she was going. My dad died young, and we weren't close to his family, so it made sense that Annabelle was curious. Plus, we had cousins on my mom's side we hadn't talked to in ages. Everyone likes a good family mystery. TV shows do this all the time. But Cindy's tone made it sound scary. I stayed quiet and waved my hand for her to continue. She smiled again and squeezed my hand like she did when she visited me in the hospital. "What if Annabelle found something? Something about your past? Something you didn't know? About—" She paused. "Gwen." Hearing that made me uncomfortable, and I clenched my jaw. "Cindy, dear, I'm supposed to move on. That's what all the therapists said. Accept the past or forget it. I've been bad at accepting, so I forgot it. So if it turns out Gwen was my cousin or my half-sister or my aunt or something, I'm better not knowing." Cindy frowned. "You might need to know, Jack. But then, maybe not. Annabelle found this out 2 weeks ago. She told me yesterday and we didn't know if we should tell you. It's about Gwen, but also not. We know you hate secrets, and we don't want you to find this out in a bad way." "That bad, huh?" I took a long breath, thinking. What should I do? I didn't want to think about the past, especially about my ex-wife. I felt I had moved on a lot in 5 years, and even without the details, I worried this could make me fall back. But I hated keeping secrets. Both my love and my sister looked worried. They thought I might get mad if I got a bad surprise again. I couldn't think of any news that could be as bad as when I found out about Gwen and Joe. Even getting shot and almost dying wasn't as bad to me. That's how much it still hurt. I thought hard. But in the end, I knew I had to hear what they had to say. Cindy's sad face told me I had to. "If it's making both of you this worried, then fine, I'll listen." She bit her lip, nodded, then knelt down in front of me. She took my hand. Looking up, I saw nothing but love and worry in her eyes. "Jack, Annabelle found out you have a daughter, with Gwen, and she wants to meet you." I froze. I couldn't believe what I just heard. The news was too big to take in. That's... What was I trying to say? This didn't make sense. That's not possible. It's been 20 years since I last saw Gwen. I haven't... No, it can't be. Cindy held my hands tight. She tried to calm me down. Shh, Jack, I know it sounds strange, but remember, you said you were with Gwen one last time when the divorce was done. Maybe it happened then. A daughter? I had a daughter all this time and didn't know. Maybe. But... I couldn't finish a sentence. I was shocked. My calm afternoon with Cindy had just turned upside down. 20 years! So this girl, she would be about 19. Gwen and I once dreamed of having kids when we were together. Now it looked like we did have one. But I missed out on 19 years of her life. The deep, dark sadness was creeping back, ready to swallow me whole. Cindy must have spotted it because she hugged me tight, holding on as if she was saving me from sinking. Why didn't Gwen tell me? She could have, I said. I don't know, love, Cindy whispered back, not letting go. Annabelle and I didn't want to keep this from you for too long. We thought you should know. But talking to this girl is the only way to find out more. Cindy let go of the hug and sat back, still holding my hands. Her bright green eyes looked into mine, full of worry. Do you want to meet her, Jack? Can you talk to her? 19 years. What's her name? Hearing my question, Cindy's face lit up a bit. Her name is Charity. She's in Vermont, just finished her first year of college. Charity. Gwen and I had liked that name if we ever had a girl. I moistened my lips, longing in my heart. The key question was soft but heavy with meaning. When can I meet her? Plans were made quickly. Cindy sorted out the details, setting a date and time with Charity. Just a couple of days after Cindy told me, I was walking around my living room, nerves all over. I hadn't talked to Charity yet. We chose to wait until we met in person. I was unsure about all this, but I knew it wasn't fair to ignore Charity. She wasn't at fault for anything. Cindy stepped out when it was almost time. You should do this alone, Jack. She gave me a soft kiss. But I'll be right outside if you need me, okay? 20 minutes later, the doorbell chimed. I gulped, staring at the door as if a beast lurked on its other side. After a few heartbeats, I made myself touch the knob and open it. My heart almost cracked again. She looked so much like Gwen. She was taller and broader at the shoulders, kind of like Annabelle. But those wide cheeks and small chin, with those deep brown eyes, pure Gwen. Her hair, long and smooth, falling down her back with neat bangs at the front, was brown, not the black Gwen liked to dye it. But it was clear, this was Gwen's kid. My ex-wife never went for simple like blue jeans and a maroon hoodie. One more thing hit me hard, making it clear she was mine. An old choker I had given Gwen long ago hung around her slim neck. We just looked at each, lost for words. Did she see me as more than a tall, thin man with graying hair and a cane? Did I fit any picture she had in mind? After a bit, I broke the silence. Hi. You're Charity? She gave a small smile and nodded. Yes, Charity Eisenberger. Eisenberger was Joe's last name. But seeing you now, I think maybe it should have been Charity Brandt. Stuck for words, I stepped back and let her in. She took a seat on the couch while I settled into my armchair nearby. Leaning back, I pointed my cane at a small cooler on the floor between us. Help yourself. Got beer, soda, water. It's easier to keep it here than to hobble to the kitchen. Charity said no thanks. She wanted to dive in. You're Jack Brandt, right? That's me. So you're my dad. I let out a deep breath. Yeah, that's what my sis told me, all right. She showed me all those DNA reports from the ancestry thingy. You were looking for me? Charity shook her head and it hit me hard. Man, she had her mom's ways too. Not really. I was on the hunt for my grandma's dad. My mom used to tell me how he hurt her and her mom, how he vanished one day. I got kind of obsessed with finding him. I wanted to know why he did all that. A buddy gave me one of those DNA kits for Christmas. My friend thought it might help find him. It was a long shot, but cheaper than a detective. Let me guess, I cut in gently. You found an aunt you never knew about, one that wasn't from your mom or dad's side. With her eyes shut, Charity nodded once. At first I didn't get it. I had no clue who she was or where she fit in, thought it was a mistake or just random. But then the app starts linking me to more strangers, and I see this whole mystery side of the family. My daughter looked at me straight. That's when things started to clear up. I reached out to Annabelle through the app, then by email, then calls. She spilled it all. About you and Mom, about Joe. Joe's your dad? Charity let out a laugh. On paper, sure. He wasn't much of one, to be real. He tried, he did, and I forgive him for that, but I always made him feel weird. Do you think he knew about you and me? You know that last time? I thought about it, and I don't think he did. He's always believed I was his. When I hit Mom with all this, she just broke down and begged me not to tell him. Said it was her one secret, one that was only fair, as she put it. That made me laugh. Wow, the joke of that. The big joke of it. I looked at her with a keen eye. If Joe had made Gwen have a baby, they wanted to say it was mine. Funny how things flip. Did your mom tell you about our split? I asked. Charity laughed a bit, her eyes moving around, not wanting to look at me. Yeah, but it wasn't easy to make her talk. What she left out, your sister told me. She looked down at her shoes, her voice went soft, and she seemed so small. I never knew you two were married, and then not. I didn't even know you were a thing. No talk of you at home, not in front of me anyway. Nothing Mom or Dad said made me think she was with someone else before him. Now that we were chatting, I felt so calm. Your mom was good at keeping things secret. I tried to make her feel better. I pointed at her neck. Did she give you that necklace before or after you found out about me? Her hand touched the necklace. She gave it to me when I was 6, but it didn't fit until I was 14. I've worn it a lot since then. She looked sad, her mouth tight. When I asked her about you, that's when she told me about the necklace. My last gift to her, I remembered. She tilted her head, looking a bit better. I remember her crying a lot when I was little, mostly at night when Dad wasn't there. I once asked her why, and she said, because he's alone out there. I thought she missed Dad, but now? Your mom and I did love each other a lot, I told Charity. But what she wanted just couldn't happen. So you left. So I left. Silence filled the room again. We were both deep in thought when I threw out my own question. Did your mom say why she kept you a secret from me? She laughed again, sharp and quick. Yeah, after a lot of asking. She thought you wanted to leave that old life because it and she hurt you a lot. She worried you'd be mad at us both if you knew about me, that you'd think she was trying to drag you back into something you didn't want. Trust Gwen to get me right. Maybe I would have. I had thought about this a lot before meeting Charity, and it made sense. After your mom, things got really dark for me. I don't know how I would have reacted. I reached out my hand, open, waiting. But now? Now I wish she had told me. It feels unfair we missed out. She also said she wanted to keep a piece of what we had to herself, Charity shared, her eyes bright with hope. You don't hate me? The relief almost made me laugh out loud. Hate you? I was scared you'd hate me for leaving your mom and not knowing about you. Her smile burst through, grabbing my hand tight. I was close to it until I heard the full story. I thought maybe you left because you didn't want me. Finding out it was all her doing changed that. To be fair to Gwen, it wasn't just games. I softened a bit toward my ex. Your mom had her way of dodging stuff. She didn't talk about what was up with Joe, so she stayed quiet. She didn't want to face who you really belonged to, so she kept it to herself. She kept quiet about me on purpose. She didn't want you to know me. I get why, but it's hard to let go of being mad. I held my girl's hand soft. But that's not on you. Man, I wish you were my dad all along. You're so good at talking. Dad would have just said this wasn't his thing and told me to go see Mom. Joe, you mean? Well, he always thought he'd be a bad dad. Guess he didn't try hard enough. She looked deep in thought. So, what now? Do I call you Dad? I lifted my brows. Might be too soon. Better than sperm donor, but we still need to learn about each other. Just call me Jack for now. Charity looked sad, so I quickly added, but now we can start getting to know each other. I'd like that. Her smile could have been mine. So, can I move in? I knew she was kidding and laughed. Plan on bringing boys home? She turned pink. No, boys won't be a thing. Oh? I asked. This friend who got you the DNA kit, not a boy? No. More than a friend? Charity pulled back a bit. Is that bad? I kept smiling to show it was fine. Don't know yet. Haven't met her. But I'd like to. We could all grab dinner. How's that sound? She lit up, looking so happy. Charity was buzzing with joy, kind of like Cindy, not so much Gwen. Yeah, I gotta ask her, but she's at the hotel. We were thinking if today went good with you, maybe we could get jobs here till school starts at the end of summer. That way we could all hang out more. I reached out and held her hand gently. Sounds like a great first step for us. But there's something I gotta ask you, Charity. What's up, Jack? She made a face. Weird saying that. She shook her head and leaned in. What do you need? This time I paused. I wasn't sure what dreams or hopes my daughter had about us meeting, but I had to be clear on one thing that couldn't happen. About your mom. Gwen. I don't want to know. It was tough to say. Gwen still made my heart ache. I don't want to know how she is, where she is, who she's with. I don't want to see her or talk to her. I don't want to know about her, or Joe. I don't want them to know about me. I just want you in my life. Charity pressed her lips together, thinking hard about what I said. You still love her? I do. I guess I always will. Well, the Gwen I spent 8 great years with. Knowing about your mom now, it'd just be a sad story. A very sad one. But you love Cindy. Yes, a lot. More than I did your mom, even on the best days with her and the worst with Cindy. But Gwen drags up a tough past for me, Charity, and I can't move on if I'm always reminded of that weight. My daughter thought it over, then nodded in that way that felt so familiar. I might mess up now and then, say stuff by mistake. That's okay, Charity. Stuff like that happens. Just try not to do it on purpose, okay? We talked for another 2 hours until she began to feel tired. It looked like Charity and her girlfriend Linda had come from their college right after class. She said she'd call back later that night to talk about dinner plans, and then we'd all go out together. Cindy walked into the living room and sat down where Charity had been, holding my hand as she often did. So, it went good? She asked, a bit cautious. I nodded and held her hand tight. We like to be close, always touching. It went well. We're planning to go out for dinner tonight before your work starts. I caught a bit of your chat, Cindy said, a bit playful. I kinda listened in. What's this about loving me more than Gwen, even on the best days with her, and the worst with me? I chuckled and made her sit on my good knee. You know it's the truth. Do I? She asked, leaning back into me gently. My love was soft, warm, and amazing. So, how will you show me? Bagels, I said with confidence. Bagels? Yes, I replied. We're going to grab some bagels for lunch. I hope they have the French toast ones. I really like those. Cindy looked puzzled. How are bagels going to show you love me, Jack? Easy. As I looked at her, I touched her 4th finger gently. After bagels, we're hitting the jewelers. I'm buying you a ring, and I'm asking you to marry me, Cindy. Oh, well, that's... Seeing her all flustered was a treat. She melted into me, surprised and happy. We had lightly talked about marriage before over the last year or 2. Now it was time to do it, to start our own family. Well, if that's what you want... Cindy gave me one of those kisses that made me feel all warm and tingly, my hand gripping her tight. If so, she whispered, making me smile as she lightly bit my ear. Then I guess I should say yes to save you some time. But we need a trial honeymoon just to make sure we do it right. I couldn't help but smile. The small things like bagels could wait a bit more. The small things in life stay there while you sort out the big stuff. Hey, audience! If you liked this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.